You're listening to the Afro Chi Podcast, a show for my fellow Black female energy healers and the everyday woman who wants to heal her energy in a creative and holistic way. You'll hear from Black female healers who share their knowledge, gifts, and experiences and enlighten you on how to tap into your powerful Black energy to get the results you need to live an energetically free life. If you're ready to become unstuck, find freedom and peace energetically, stay tuned. I'm your host, Keya Flipping. Hey guys, so if you are just joining us for the first time here on the Afro Chi Podcast, we are in season 2, where we will be covering a chakra series. If this is your first episode in the season, I really advise you to start at season 2, episode 1, where we will be covering the root chakra. We will spend this entire season working our way all the way up the 7 main chakras. Today, we will be discussing chakra 6, the third eye or brow chakra. Our guest today that will be helping us get more familiar with our third eye is the owner of Mana Holistics Health and Wellness Incorporated. She is a psychic providing medium readings, tarot readings, a Reiki master providing Reiki services, an empowerment life coach for women. She holds healing retreats, events, and workshops for women, and also sound therapy. Here with us today is Keya of Mana Holistics Health and Wellness. How are you?
I'm so well. Look, I'm sitting here like, wow. I need
know,
you to
right?
walk beside me and just introduce me every time I walk into a
Yes,
place. That
girl.
was awesome. Thank you.
Your intro is bomb. I'm so excited to have you.
So am I. So am I. Thank you so much. And I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you for creating this space for us to have. I feel like you're the gatekeeper of sorts in bridging the gaps and bringing forth the divine energy that we all need so much. So thank you so much for holding this space for us and allowing me to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And I have been following you for a while. And when I decided to do the chakra series, when I was thinking about third eye, I said, yep, Keya the one. She gonna hit this one right on the head. This is it.
Look.
And when we were talking a little bit before recording, you mentioned this was like your favorite chakra. I was like,
yes.
See, I knew
it. You were so in sync when you said the third eye. I was like, you know what? Okay, I got this. I got this one. Thank you, Spirit.
Absolutely. So I want us to jump on in. So we are at episode 6 of season 2, going over the third eye. And again, we're working our way all the way up. So if you can just talk to us about the basics of the third eye chakra. Where is it located? What colors are associated? What are some of the elements, some mantras? Just kind of give us the basics of this chakra.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, the third eye chakra is the 6th major chakra in the body, and it's located in the forehead region between the eyebrows. Mm-hmm. If you want a more in-depth, because a lot of times people think, oh, it's just right here, it's just right between the brows. But to get a more accurate depiction of where it's located, it's between the brows, but if you could kind of close your eyes and visualize it being maybe about an inch behind where your physical eyes are. Within the forehead. That would be a more accurate depiction. Now, there is the third eye chakra, but then also when doing certain meditations, I don't want to go too far, but also when doing certain meditations, that is where the third eye is located. But also if you go back and up about 2 more inches, now we're dealing in the realm of the higher self, which is a deeper level of the third eye chakra.
Nice.
So the color that is associated with the third eye chakra is like an indigo, so like a richer, deeper purplish color. Okay. And that's I make sure to distinguish that because the crown chakra, as we know, is also purplish in color, but it's a lighter color. So when you're thinking about the third eye chakra, think more of a rich, deeper, darker purple as its association. And with that, also thinking about eating our rainbow. So when we want
Mm.
to consume certain things, we want to think about foods from the earth that are close to or are very similar to that color: blackberries, plums, eggplants, if you like that. That's a very acquired taste.
Mm-hmm.
But you think about foods that are rich in color, that are closer to the color of the third eye chakra, that you will want to consume if you're focusing on cleansing and healing and balancing the third eye chakra.
Nice, nice.
Man, and I'm the mantra queen. You must have saw that too. I feel that when activating, what I've learned personally, and you'll hear me say that a lot throughout the podcast, is what works for me, what I've learned, because a lot of times people, when they see or they feel that you are strong in a certain area, a lot of times they like to take what you say as law. And I
Mm-hmm.
feel that above all things, you need to make sure that you are utilizing that third eye chakra and tuning into self to make sure that this is something that works for you.
Mm-hmm.
But for me personally, I feel that with the third eye chakra, imagination, trust, and openness are the three most important keys in terms of allowing the energy to flow through that particular chakra. You have
Okay.
to have the imagination, because a lot of times when spirit is revealing things to you, it's not going to look like what you would be looking for yourself, especially when you're giving readings or doing forms of divination for other people. You have to be open to the imagination, because when spirit is showing things to me personally, it comes sometimes in the form of like a movie or reel or a puzzle piece. Sometimes I have to put the puzzle together. So you have to allow that imagination to be full force so that you can receive the message according to what spirit is showing you, and not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily what you want to see for the client. And so you have to be open to trusting yourself, being open to trusting your spirit guides and the divine, that these messages are coming through as, an accurate depiction of what the recipient needs to receive versus what makes sense to you.
Mm-hmm.
So your imagination, your openness, and your trust. Again, trusting your guides, trusting yourself, trusting that even if it doesn't make sense to you, that it makes sense to the person that's receiving the message.
Mm-hmm.
And so with saying that, one of my favorite mantras is, I am freely open to trusting myself and trusting that the universe is guiding me to provide clear, accurate, and easily receptive or accessible information that resonates with my client. Now that's a lot. So I would just say I am open to trusting my intuition. I am
Ah.
open to being guided by that which is higher than myself.
Mm-hmm.
But just being open to trusting that intuition and trusting the divine, that you have given free reign to flowing through you. You're the vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to say, when it comes to that third eye space, that it's not about me. When I say, my prayer, I give my invocation before going forth and doing the work, I always ask the divine to remove any parts of me that might get in the way. So
Mm-hmm.
remove anything that may be riddled with ego, or I'm a Scorpio, so I'm very analytical sometimes. So just removing those parts of me and allowing spirit to flow freely through that third eye space so that I can be the vessel.
I love that. And I love that specifically for healers that are out here doing the work. I think that
Mhm.
that's an amazing mantra, to, like you said, just to repeat to yourself and have that as a clear indicator to almost like remove you. Like, I am
Mhm.
sort of the middleman, so to speak. So
Mhm.
remove
Mhm.
me so that the work can be done. What would you
Mhm.
say for the person looking for healing? What is a good mantra for them? Not the healer, but just the everyday
The
person, maybe
recipient.
that's going for healing, or maybe just trying to do some self-healing. Especially when thinking of that third eye specifically, thinking about some of the principles and associations. Just hearing you speak, I heard a lot of wisdom,
Mhm.
trusting and that sort of thing. Like, what would be a good mantra for just your everyday Black woman that's really trying to tap into that third eye?
Mhm. I would say it's the same.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
reason why I say that is because a lot of times we separate the healer in self as if it's
Mm-hmm.
someone outside of us, and we are
Mm-hmm.
all individual healers. So you
Absolutely.
have to be willing to trust that intuition as well, because if you don't, you're going to go looking for it to come from someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely say that, I trust my intuition.
Love
I
it.
trust
Yes.
that still voice that's guiding me, because you want to learn how to trust that which is flowing through you. You don't need someone else. You don't need me to come in. I am
Mm-hmm.
more than willing if you decide, hey, I think I need to take it a step further. So can you
Mm-hmm.
come in and help me with where I am? But the healing, you are the healer. All I do
Mm-hmm.
is come in and I open up that channel to remind you that you're the healer. So
Absolutely.
you have to trust your intuition as well, because how many times do we hear the messages, we hear it coming through, but because it's coming from what we perceive as ourselves, we're so quick to dismiss it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that I could be right about me. Well, hello. Who else could be more right about you
Yeah.
than you?
Yeah.
And so being able to identify with when it is yourself and when it is your higher self.
I
Again, this
love
all
that.
correlates with the I always say that when it comes to that sixth chakra, that third eye chakra, we have to make sure that we know when it is our lower self that is speaking and when it is our higher self. We see ourselves as one entity, and I think that's where a lot of the struggle comes in,
Kia, can you
because
break that down right there?
that
Yeah,
as
that's
one
something.
entity.
Mm-hmm.
So when we view ourselves as just one thing, it's just me as self, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to realize that there's so many different components within us. And if we learn how to tap into each individual component, then I feel like it's easier. It's kind of like that when you have that test. You don't, if you're studying to be or you have a test coming up, let's say to be a real estate agent,
Mm-hmm.
you don't try to cram everything in all at once to learn it all at one time. You break it up into sections, into
Yeah.
lessons, into different levels. And that is the same with self. When you're dealing with the lower self, when you're dealing with the higher self, the lower self is going to be that voice that's normally coming in and telling you what you can't do, questioning everything, over analyzing everything. So you know that voice. You can identify with that one. Now, when you come in and you hear that small, still voice that's telling you, hey, do this, it's not going to yell at you. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're listening for the yell. Do this, take this step, trust yourself, I got you. When
Mm.
you hear that, now that is your higher self that is speaking to you. It is typically the lower self that's listening, the higher self that has the wisdom that's teaching. So when
Love
we're able
it.
to identify with that, then we realize, okay, so there's different components, there's different parts of me. But a lot of times when we hear that lower voice that is speaking, or the lower level of self that is speaking, we take everything that voice says as law. You can't do
Mm.
this. You're not worthy. We believe that just like this. But when that higher self comes in and reminds you of who you are, and it teaches you to return back home to self, because we like to say, I'm finding myself. You were never lost. You're returning back home to self. So when that voice comes in to remind you of who you are and what it is that you possess, we want to brush that off. No, that couldn't possibly be true. But in fact, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So when I speak on, we're not just one entity, it's the same with our hands. It's one, it looks like one thing, but there's so many different components on our hands, our fingers, fingernails, the joints within the fingers. All of that comes together to create the one hand, but they all individually serve their purpose and do their part so that that one hand can work.
Love it. Love it. Love it. And just even on that topic, like how can someone know when the third eye chakra is imbalanced, like when it needs some attention?
Yes. So, a lot of times when we're dealing with the lack of trust,
Okay.
feeling really overwhelmed or underwhelmed, not having the motivation to do, or feeling unclear. That's another one. Feeling very unclear, like nothing makes sense. I don't know what direction to take or what I should do. That's a sign of imbalance. Also feeling really paranoid.
Mm.
Like it's hard for me to trust anyone, or I keep thinking that I'm seeing things, because see, think about the third eye, where we're able to see things in this realm, but also in other realms. So you're always thinking that, did I see something just fly past me? Did I, it's a high level of paranoia, insomnia, not being able to rest, overactive mind.
Mm.
When you're going and I can always tell when I'm out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
You think a lot about, I literally had one night where the entire night that I was trying to rest, I kept going over the tarot readings that I did that day. And that particular day, I probably had about 10 clients. And so
Oh my goodness.
I literally all night kept going through all of the tarot readings, and I knew what to do. And let me say that too. A lot of times we know what to do. We have to be disciplined enough to actually do it. Especially those that are nurturers, that may not be a healer by profession, but you have that healing spirit within you. It is so easy to do for others, and when it comes to self, we put ourselves on the back burner. But so having, I think probably one of the biggest keys or signs of imbalance is probably the lack of trust or the lack of clarity.
Okay.
Feeling as if you cannot clearly see your way through.
Is that almost like being indecisive? Like when it's hard for you
Yes.
to choose or make up your mind about something, like you're going back and forth in your head,
Yes. Because you're not trusting yourself. And it will get so deep into knowing that this is what is right. Because again, here's higher level self telling you this is what you should do, but lower level self is saying, all of the reasons why you should not do that. So that indecisiveness for sure, because you hear it, you see it, but you're not trusting the process. You're not trusting that this higher self is giving you the correct guidance. Okay. So that's absolutely a sign.
And what are some ways that, or maybe not some ways, or maybe so ways, things, circumstances, events, whatever it may be, that can cause that third eye to become imbalanced?
The lack of trust. So the very thing that is a sign is also one of the things that leads to that. So having lack of trust, overanalyzing everything.
Okay.
Not, when you hear that this is the step to take, and the more you practice not trusting that voice, the more underactive that third eye becomes, and then the harder it is for you to kind of reel it back in. Okay. It becomes more of like a repetitive action. Also, eating certain things, like not being on top of your nutrition. I 100% have noticed when I'm not eating correctly, it shows. It shows in that third eye. And I'm not saying by any means that you have to be plant-based, you have to be, a certain thing. I know a lot of people are looking, probably listening to see if that's what I'm going to say. May I venture off into that for a second?
Okay. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I have been both a pescatarian and vegan, or plant-based vegan. I grew up in the South, so I ate any and everything most of my life. But then when I met my husband in 2003, he was very selective in what, or we got married in 2003. But anyway, when I met him, he was very selective in what he chose to eat. And so I became pescatarian by default because I got tired of preparing all of these different meals all the time. But then my spirit was kind of leading me more into like a vegan, plant-based around 2011. Tried it, had no clue what I was doing, got tired of eating French fries and salad every day. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to become pescatarian again, become a health coach to learn for myself what to do, and then try it again. And then I was vegan for 3 years. Last year, I went back to being a pescatarian again. And now I just recently transitioned back to vegan. Now that sounds like I'm all over the place. And honestly, I am. But I share all of that to say, having dealt with both sides of things, I would never say for everyone that there's one size that fits all. I feel that we all have to listen again to what our spirit is saying. How do you feel after you consume these things, X, Y, and Z? But for me, I felt my absolute best with plant-based nutrition. I felt my readings, my work was at a higher level when that was my lifestyle. So that is why I'm choosing to go back this final time. Okay. Because I've been able to go on, both sides of the spectrum and see what that felt like for me. I I say, when it comes to alcohol, like I drink wine, and I'm noticing lately that I can't consume wine anymore. My spirit is just leading me with, not saying that it'll never be again, but in this season for where I'm taking you and the work that you're doing that incorporates this third eye the most, you can't consume that right now.
Okay.
So I just wanted to incorporate that, because I know sometimes people feel that they have to be plant-based in order to quote unquote live the right way in terms of utilizing the third eye, or being a healer. Every healer may not be plant-based, and everyone is entitled to follow their journey the way that they need to for themselves. But I say that to say that you definitely have to listen to your spirit in terms of what it is that you need to do.
Absolutely. And Keya, what I really heard you say was being mindful about what you're consuming provides that mental clarity. If you're consuming a bunch of junk, whether it's potato chips and beer, or a cheeseburger, whatever it is, when you're consuming junk, that's going to imbalance the third eye. You're not going to be able to have a clear mind. It's going to clog it all up. So hearing you go, pescatarian and vegan, what I heard was when you had the plant-based eating, your intuition was stronger, and that's where that third eye is, because you weren't consuming some of the things that you were before. And I think everybody can take a piece of that, regardless if you decide to do whatever with your diet. What I'm hearing is the third eye is associated with what you eat. If you're eating a bunch of junk, then your mind is going to be clogged and boggled, and you're not going to have any clarity there.
That's true. I think about it like your house. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's like your home. If you have clutter everywhere, the body is the temple. That's where you house your God consciousness. That's where whatever you identify with as God, you house that energy within yourself. So if you are not going to open your door and allow an energy so divine as that to come in and sit on your dirty floor, then you can't allow that energy to be housed in a dirty space every single day.
Yeah.
So whatever that cleanliness means for you, allow yourself to operate in that space. Just be completely pure and clean in that space, however that works for you.
I'm thinking about, again, like different things that people go through just in life. I share that I'm also a mental health therapist, and I, work with different clients that go through different life events, thinking of, that woman that has gone through an abusive relationship, or, somebody who grew up with low self-esteem, or parents or family members that put them down, and now they just don't feel good about themselves, and they do second guess themselves, and they don't trust themselves. Like those type of scenarios can really cause an imbalance for the third eye. Would you agree?
I totally agree. I've been gifted since I was a young child. I would see things, and I'm sharing this because I know a lot of people struggle with hiding that openness of that gift, because you are considered an outcast, or you're segregated of sorts. And so I went through that my entire life, even still. But being a young child who could see and hear and experience things that no one else around me was, I grew up definitely feeling like I was crazy. Something was wrong with me. So you will notice a lot of people that are extremely intuitive, they may deal a lot with depression, anxiety. That's also a sign of imbalance. They oftentimes deal with addictions of sorts, because you're trying to cope with the things that that you're experiencing, but you're trying to force yourself to believe that you're not, based off of what everyone else around you is saying. So it definitely creates an imbalance in terms of that. Anyone that's dealing with that may be listening to this, my advice to them is, of course, being on the other side of that now, is making sure that you honor self. And even if you choose not to share with other people what your experience is, it is absolutely important that you honor within yourself that there is nothing wrong with you. You're not crazy by a long shot. And when you are experiencing these things, when you're hearing them and seeing them, maybe journal it, so that you're able to connect with it, identify with it, and release it from yourself without feeling like, if I share this with someone else, what are they going to think about me?
Yeah.
But it's absolutely important to be able to connect with that space of, I grew up Christian, as most people, and in that upbringing, it was, what was, I think, the most confusing for me is like, if you're doing it in Jesus's name, then it's okay. But if you are doing it, you know, per se, like I'm a seer or a medium, or, you know, now it somehow becomes not okay. And it's like, but it's the same thing. I just have a different foundation for which I'm doing it. So that was confusing for me as well. But I really had to build up my mental and emotional muscle, so that those things no longer affected me in terms of what anyone else thought. I only have this particular life, is the only existence that I have now. And I have chosen to reincarnate into this space to do this work. So I am doing myself a huge disservice if I allow someone else to stop me from fulfilling the purpose that I came here to fulfill. So that is what is my guiding point now. And having children who are very gifted, it allows me to be able to fill their pots up now versus them having to dig through all of the mess and having to refill it themselves when they become older. So
I love that.
Yes.
That is so insightful. And thinking about the listeners who are listening now, who this is possibly their first time hearing about the third eye chakra and really getting in depth with this chakra area, just helping them understand, because I know a lot of people want to know, well, you know, how do I know if this chakra is imbalanced, if it needs more attention, if this has happened, that has happened. And one thing I heard you say was addictions, you know, and that made me think about, you know, an attribute that could contribute to the third eye. Are there any other physical symptoms that somebody may feel? And you tapped into the spirituality piece and the emotional piece, but any other thing that you can share that somebody can say, wow, I feel that, I'm experiencing that physically, emotionally, spiritually. This must mean that this third eye is in balance and I need to give it a little bit of love right now.
One of the other I just lost my words. One of the other common, that's the word I'm looking for. One of the other common symptoms that your third eye may be out of balance is headaches. And the headaches are typically in the front of the head. Especially if you're noticing it after being around maybe a large crowd or being around someone who, because a lot of times, say you're in front of someone and you're constantly kind of hearing things within your mind as it relates to this other person, even if you haven't learned how to trust it or not, but you just keep hearing these things. A lot of times, because we're trying to suppress what we're hearing because we're not sure what's going on, now we're creating an imbalance within the flow and then trying to stop it. So a headache in the front of our head space, like right around where that third eye chakra is extremely common. Also kind of feeling like you have like brain fog, like your mind is just really scattered. Like the words aren't coming. I know what I need to say and I know this, but it's just not coming right now. That's also a huge sign of having an imbalance. A lot of things that just really deal with the mind space. Is typically an imbalance of that third eye, not being able to be clear, or again, this is not really a physical, but just being very fearful and anxious and you're not sure why. That's normally a sign. It could either be underwhelmed or overwhelmed when you feel that. But just being really anxious, really fearful, really paranoid, as we talked about before. But as far as the physical, definitely the headaches, definitely like the brain scatter, and also kind of feeling like the brain is kind of OCDing, like just repeating the same thing over and over again, especially if you're dealing with like mistakes or anything that you might be struggling with in terms of guilt. It's kind of like a broken record. It just keeps going. That's also a sign that you're dealing with imbalance in terms of the third eye.
Okay. Wow. That was a good list for people to be able to really sit with self and say, shoot, am I going through some of that? Do I feel some of those ways? And then what would be the opposite? How can somebody say, oh, I'm good, my third eye straight, I'm good right here?
I was literally, so of course, your intuition is spot on. You're hitting it every time on the head. Like, I Spirit, we here. I got it. I heard you. Extremely motivated, super excited. Of course, being joyful but not being anxious, because there is a thin
Okay.
line. So having that feeling of joy and feeling like you're balanced and you're aligned, like I know where I'm going, regardless of what's going on in my life right now. I know where I'm headed. I can see it. I can see my future. A lot of times, we get caught in the now, and we think the now is going to be forever. Absolutely not. The pendulum swings both ways. There's duality in everything. It's
Mm.
always going to get better. Always.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to feel that and see that and align with that. And definitely, I would say just being very trustworthy in terms of self, knowing that I'm not going to lead myself wrong. The spirit that flows through me is not going to lead me wrong. Like just being really aligned in terms of that inner knowing, feeling
Love it.
extremely connected to the universe as well. Like I know that I'm supported. I know that I'm guided. So definitely just feeling really aligned and trustworthy in terms of yourself.
I love how you repeat that trusting of self, because I feel like a lot
Mhm.
of times we feel like we have to rely on others to validate us in so many
Mhm.
ways when
Mhm.
we have all of the answers. Like
Yes.
nobody has to confirm that. All of the
Mhm.
answers are already within us. And like you
It is.
spoke about the higher self and the lower self, like the higher self is trying to give you the tea, it's trying to tell
Mhm.
you. But we'll go and try to ask somebody and have them confirm, but they weren't given our vision.
That's right.
It was
That's
given to
right.
us. So we have to
Yeah.
validate ourselves and trust ourselves. I love that.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yes.
we'll put more trust in other people than we do our daggone self.
That's so true. That is so true. It's so funny because we all do it, and it's like,
Yes.
well, why do you feel like they would know you better than you know yourself? Like everyone is struggling to try to figure themselves out. So how on earth do they know you?
Mm-hmm.
You have to trust you. And so another thing that I wanted to touch on as well. So in the back of the neck, and this is extremely important. It's a different chakra, but it's directly connected with the third eye. So I wanted to speak on that if it's okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So in the back of the neck, it's called the Alta major chakra.
Uh-huh.
And so if you take your fingers and you go to like the base of the neck, the base of the head and where the neck connects, and you kind of take it in like a V where the fingers connect, you should feel like this soft spot back there, especially if
Mm-hmm.
you lean your head back. So if you take your finger and gently press on it, you should feel an activation in the third eye. Do you feel that?
Absolutely. Wow.
So it's considered a minor chakra, but the reason that I wanted to speak on it is because when we are feeling the headaches and the imbalances, sometimes it's because this space is considered to be a portal of energy where both positive and negative energy can enter into. And if we're not protecting that space, that the third eye space is easier to become imbalanced or to become affected. Psychic attacks, nightmares, headaches, the
Mm-hmm.
whole nine. It's very important for us to make sure that we keep that space protected, covering it with a scarf if you're doing any type of spiritual work, using essential oils. Before I do anything, I have a blend, or if I don't have my blend ready, I definitely my Florida water, my sage essential oil. I make sure to cover that space with the oil as well as my third eye so that I'm shielding that opening so that no negative energy can come in to try to attack me in any type of way.
And is that something that everybody can do?
Yes.
Not
Oh,
just
yes.
somebody
Yes. Yes.
that's
Yes.
provide. Yeah, I think, and that was
Yes.
going to be actually my next set of questions is what are some everyday tools or tips that people can, easily have accessible when they need to provide some attention to the third eye. So I love that back of the
Mhm.
neck, so they can maybe apply a little pressure point there, or you were saying put some essential oils there. Would you
Mhm.
mind sharing any of the oils that you love that you feel like
Oh, of
are
course.
directly connected to the third eye?
Yes. So, of course, I use my sage oil for protection,
Mm-hmm.
Florida water for protection. I also use lavender because lavender is purple in color. So
Mm-hmm.
I use the lavender oil to place in that space as well as my third eye. What I do to the third eye, I do to the Alta major chakra as well.
Okay.
So the lavender essential oil, Lang Lang, is also a really good one to place on both, and also taking an amethyst crystal. Once you've cleared it and attuned it, you can take that amethyst crystal and just do like a sweeping motion 3 times on the back of the neck as well as the third eye to cleanse the energy out of out of those spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so it, in addition to clearing the energy out, it also helps to balance. So if you want to meditate, taking an amethyst crystal and placing it on the third eye and meditating on that space, visualizing that while that amethyst crystal is sitting there, that is pulling all of the negative energy out, is clearing all of the imbalances, but it's also, because energy never dies, we have to make sure that we're not just pulling it out and not replacing it with anything.
Okay.
So when I visualize that negative energy coming out into the amethyst crystal, I visualize almost like this magical pot that's inside of the crystal. And it's kind of cleansing all of that negative energy. And then it's not cleansed for me until I see like these crystals, like almost like diamonds, shimmering diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I know it's clear for me. And once I see the inside of the crystal doing that whole number and it's clear, then I visualize it coming back in to the third eye space from out of the amethyst. So now you have that mixture of the energy from the amethyst crystal, as well as that healing energy that you've transmuted from dark. You had that dark energy, but you transmuted it to light and sent it back. If we clear the energy out and we don't put anything back in, we leave it open to, we're more receptive to other energy that's coming into the space. I would much rather transmute that energy and put it back so that I know what's in there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when meditating, visualizing that third eye space, again, we want to visualize like a lotus flower is what I always see. It can be closed and then it slowly starts to open up.
Hey Queens, isn't this such a great episode? Be sure to check out the Afro Chi Healers Directory, where you can find healers in your area offering similar services to the guests on today's podcast. If you are a healer, please be sure to join the directory so that Black women can locate your healing services and offerings. To join and view the directory, please visit afroqi.com. Okay, let's jump back into this episode.
Our spirit is so intuitive in terms of when it knows when to stop and how much to do. So just allowing your spirit to allow that lotus to open up. You may not want that third eye chakra fully open. You may not want to receive messages all the time. So visualizing the lotus opening into a space where you're comfortable, and then visualizing this purple light, this dark purple light coming out and just radiating your entire forehead. It's also a way to cleanse and balance and realign the third eye chakra as well.
Love it. Love it. And could you give us that food list again? You mentioned eggplant and blackberries. What are some other foods that we can?
So plums, dark purple grapes, any foods that would be dark purple in color. I'm going to be honest with you. I am a very finicky eater, so my list probably will not extend beyond that, simply because for me, because for me, it's like, I don't know about that. But anything that's rich in like a dark purple color, especially if it's from the earth, you want to consume that to help cleanse it. So the dark purple grapes, of course, plums, the eggplant, as well as I feel like I'm missing one. Plums.
Did you say blackberries?
Great. Blackberries.
Blackberries.
Yes. Although they're called blackberries, you'll notice, especially if you consume them, it leaves like a purplish color on your hand. So it's called blackberries, but it has that purple tint to it. So definitely consuming those. And I feel like I'm missing one, but like I said, just making sure that it's that rich dark purple color that you want to consume to help with that.
And anything, this is really good. So as we close up, I'm trying to think of like any other way to keep this energy balanced. So we now know the location, the color, the elements, some mantras, we know the principles. We know how to detect within ourselves if this area is imbalanced. And we know how to clear it out and get it back into balance. And I'm just trying to think about like some day-to-day things that we can do. It's like, all right, we were in balance, now we balance. Now how do I stay in balance? That's why I was asking you, can I get that food list again? So our listeners can take notes. So it's like, okay, now I'm good. Like, let me keep this chakra balanced. Let me keep it going good, And I'm wondering, what
Mm-hmm.
about like meditating? Like, is that a way to really keep the third eye in balance? Is that
Yes.
like a strategy to use, a technique?
Absolutely, because when the third eye is balanced, the left this is when the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of the brain is in alignment.
Okay.
So it's the left side is the creative side, and then the right side is like the analytical side. So that's when they're in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure to get out and get sunlight every day, even if it's only 10 to 15 minutes, because again, you think about the activation of the sun. Sun is life for us, like it refuels us. So being able to get out in the sun every day to consume that sunlight helps to keep it clear and balanced. Exercising every day, at least 30 minutes, also helps because it releases certain endorphins, and it's a natural detox. We think about it only detoxing the physical when we sweat, but it detoxes the spirit as well as the chakras and the healing of, the spirit body and the physical body as well. Meditation, as you said, is absolutely key. I think from my experience, it's good to do third eye chakra meditations, but you don't want to overdo it because you don't want to overactivate the third eye chakra, and now it's imbalanced the opposite way.
Yeah.
So I would recommend only doing like third eye chakra meditations, no more than about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, and maybe only twice a week.
Okay.
So that we don't overbalance that. Also, I was looking, elderberries.
Elderberries.
That's what I was thinking about. That's what I was like, why? I'm missing one. Okay, so let me just repeat that. So for the foods, the plums, blackberries, eggplant, purple grapes, figs, and elderberries.
Nice.
Those are the ones that I can think of. And also, if you're able to meditate while sitting in the sun, that's like a
perfect.
double activator. So if the days where you want to maybe do the third eye meditation, you can do that in the sun. Also with the amethyst crystal, that meditation that we talked about, doing that in the sun would be, oh my gosh. So as well as yoga.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. As
Any
well as
asanas
yoga.
in particular?
Let me just say that I think my favorite is probably Savasana.
Yes. People think I'm joking when I say that. Yes.
I think that would be my favorite for the third eye, because one of the most important factors that we have to incorporate with third eye is being able to rest. When you think about, because I can sense an intuitiveness with you as well. So think about when, say, maybe you're put on the spot because people have learned about this gift and they're wanting you to read the people, right? And they just toss you on the spot, and it's like, why can't I hear anything? Because now we're forcing, and third eye chakra is all about the flow. It is all about the flow. So you have to learn to relax and to be still. So that's why I say Savasana, because it allows you to be still and to relax, so that, again, you're this open channel that it can flow through. When you think about spirit flowing through into the third eye it's the reason why the third eye is in alignment with the mouth for the throat chakra, because that energy comes in and then it comes right back out.
Yeah.
So when you are trying to force it and you're not allowing it to flow, then it's kind of like this bridge, but there's planks on the bridge that's missing. So how can I get across if there, all of the planks aren't there? So that flow allows everything to become in alignment so that it can flow freely from one space out of the other.
I love it. I love it. And self-disclosure, there has been many yoga classes where I have received visions and messages while in Shavasana. Literally, I will come into yoga with so many questions all in my head. And in that moment, that final rest, my questions are answered.
They're answered. And, with doing sound baths, when I perform sound baths, I've had people that come into a space that have never had a sound bath before, don't know what to expect. And when they're in that mode where for 30, 45 minutes, they're literally resting, or they're in a deeper state of relaxation, it's like, I've been having questions about things for years, and now I finally have that clarity because you've allowed yourself to be still enough so that spirit can finally communicate with you. So
Absolutely.
definitely, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. And when you gave the tip about exercise, and that's another one for myself as well, just being highly creative. I'm always in my head creating. I'm building something. I'm creating, which can cause some anxiety because I get nerve-sided. It's like I'm nervous and I'm excited. But exercising
I like that.
every day. And I have to do it in the morning. If I do not start my morning with burning off that energy, kicking out that anxiety, that funky mind, like my mind just going all over the place, then my day is just different than when I start my day with some meditation, some tea, some exercise. It's like I almost have to burn myself out. Like, you got to take that dog for a walk in the morning before you go to work. Like, that's me. Like, I got to burn some energy off so I can have a clear mind for the day.
And when you spoke about tea, I'm glad that you mentioned that. So I just concocted something. I was just because I'm currently studying medical astrology and herbalism. And so it's teaching me how to utilize certain herbs based on certain zodiac signs in people's natal charts. And so for the third eye, I concocted this tea, and it tastes so good. So it's anise seeds. So that's ANISE, just for the listeners. Anise seeds. Then there's a purslane herb, which is PURSLANE, and lemongrass. The herbs. So all herbs. So I have this. It's like my favorite drink bottle in the world. It has my crystals in the bottom of it, and so I can utilize cold and warm drinks in it. And of course, I recommend drinking from glass as much as possible, so that because the third eye is connected to that pineal gland and the pituitary gland, we want to make sure that we keep that decalcified as much as possible. So glass is the way to go for me. But I strain it directly into that glass bottle. I just put the herbs inside of the strainer, pour some hot water on it, let it sit. You know your tea is good when you don't need a sweetener, right?
Yes.
I love that combination. So I do more of the anise seeds because it has almost like this pepperminty flavor. But the anise seeds also kind of put me in the mind of chia seeds. So I let some of them get into the tea and I just kind of drink it. And it's also like very fibrous, so it's filling. You have to try it. You have to try it. So that,
y'all gonna have to get that list.
Those herbs, those are 3 strong herbs that helps to cleanse the third eye and keep it balanced. So putting them together tastes amazing. And I try to drink it before I do any type of divination each day. I can feel the difference. I just started it about maybe a week and a half ago, and I drink it every day. I can totally feel the difference. I'm not as overwhelmed when I'm done with dealing with about 10 to 12 readings a day. Definitely try that to everyone that's listening. That also helps with cleansing and balancing the third eye chakra. Thank you for mentioning tea.
Yes, I love me some tea. And thank you so much, Keya, for this conversation, for your insights. Oh my gosh, this was very, very juicy. I love giving the listeners like some tangible things, like now they can go to the grocery store, they know what things to buy, they know what herbs that can help them, they know what crystals, because a lot of people are like, what crystals do I need? So now y'all know y'all can get y'all an amethyst, what oils will help. I just love the tangible things, and I think the listeners will be able to hear some things that really stuck out to them, whether it's, wow, this lets me know that this third eye is a little off balance, or maybe some people are like, okay, this is not, right now in my life, in this moment, is not a chakra that is one that I need to be too concerned about, that is imbalanced. So I thank you so much for this conversation. And just to remind the listeners, Keya's information will be left in the description, so please reach out to her. She is a psychic providing medium readings. She provides tarot readings, Reiki. If you follow her on Instagram, I love when she does the recordings of her distance Reiki. Y'all, she be hooking it up. I love it. She's an empowerment life coach for women, and also providing retreats and workshops and different events, as well as sound therapy. So you guys, please reach out. And Keya, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you for this space. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Afro Chi podcast. Be sure to visit our website at afroqi.com and on all social media platforms at The Afro QI. Subscribe to this podcast now so you never miss a show.